Hey guys, today we are on a mission to save myself some future dollars. You see, this right here is one of my favorite foundations. It is the Estée Lauder Double Wear Light Soft Matte Hydra Makeup. It is amazing, it is beautiful, it is $50-ish. This is definitely a foundation that I would repurchase. However, if I can find a dupe for it, I'm gonna. So, I've got here the Covergirl Ready Set Gorgeous Fresh Complexion Oil-Free Foundation. And this is a very old product. Like, I don't know when this came out, but it was a long time ago. And I have tried it before. I remember really liking it, but I read somewhere that this is a dupe for that, so I wanted to test it out. We're gonna be doing one half of my face in the Estée Lauder and one half of my face in the Covergirl. Obviously, the Covergirl side is like $8. Versus, you know, almost $50 over here. So we're gonna see how they look, how they perform, how they wear throughout the day. For your guys' reference, I have the shade 1N2 Ecru in the Estée Lauder and 105 Classic Ivory. I'm hoping they're gonna be pretty similar. I think that they will be. I think they're both the same shade of wrong, that, you know, they'll match each other. So this is kind of how I like to apply foundations that are in this type of packaging. Super easy. I don't have to deal with having a foundation stain on my hand for the rest of the day. Give this video a thumbs up if that is you. And I've really been enjoying using like these like old school makeup sponges lately. For some reason, I feel like they are more soft and just like give me a better finish than like my Beauty Blender or my Real Technique sponge or even my Eco Tools sponge. All right, so here is one half of the Estée Lauder Double Wear Light Foundation. With a sponge, it's pretty light coverage. I could probably build it up to a medium, but my skin isn't too terrible right now, so that's what it's looking like. Evens everything out, looks like skin, and I'll give you a close-up once I apply this other's half. So now let's do the Covergirl. Try to do the exact same amount. And I'm just gonna use the other side of the sponge. Ooh, the color is different. Okay, that's okay. So this Covergirl one is a little bit more peachy. So I'm expecting it to be like a little bit more orange. But it doesn't look much darker or lighter, so hopefully nobody notices. And here is the Covergirl side. Like, the finish to me looks exactly the same. Let's get a close-up here. Both sides look very much the same right now. Both did a really good job at smoothing over like actual like dry flakes that were hanging off my nose this morning. I would say that the Estée Lauder side looks a little bit drier, kind of in the areas around my nostrils. The Covergirl one is like totally powder soft, whereas the Estée Lauder side, while it is like set down for sure, like there's more of like a drag to my skin. Like it doesn't feel like I have powder on it, whereas the Covergirl side feels like I've already powdered it even though I haven't. I think that the Covergirl one actually has a smoothing effect that the Estée Lauder one doesn't have. So while the Estée Lauder one mimics skin in the sense that, you know, it keeps the skin's natural texture, the Covergirl side is actually a little bit smoother than my natural skin texture. So like that's kind of nice actually. Color, to be honest, like they don't look that different from each other. I think in comparison to my neck, the Estée Lauder side is better. The Covergirl one's just like a teensy bit orangey in real life, although I don't find it picks up too much on camera. I think with the sponge application, they both have like the exact same amount of coverage. Since I have used these before, I can say that you can build both of these up to a medium coverage for sure. I mean, I'm like very excited right now because, I mean, at least upon first application, absolutely this could be a dupe. So I'm excited to see how they wear. I did not wear any primer today. All I have on is the Clinique ID Dramatically Different Hydrating Jelly. So I have the purple insert that you can put in, which is for like plumpness and anti-aging and all that good stuff. So just a moisturizer on my face, and I'm not going to be setting this with any powder. I just want to see how it wears completely on its own. I'm just going to apply some blush, because a really good sense of how the foundation is wearing is how well your products last on top of it. So this is just the Milani Dolce Pink blush. Haven't used a Milani blush in a very long time. Okay, so that is good for blush, I think. I just wanted to do a very quick comparison of the shade, but then also just the consistency. So this top one here is the Estée Lauder in 1N2 Ecru, and then this one here is the Covergirl in 105 Classic Ivory. So they both are very similar in consistency, where they are thin but not watery. So the Estée Lauder one feels very, very creamy, as does the Covergirl. I would say the Covergirl one feels a little bit slippier and softer, whereas the Estée Lauder one feels a little bit thicker and tackier. Very, very, very similar, and I think you can see what I mean here about the Covergirl one just being like slightly more peachy orange. So I'm just going to put a little bit of a brow and maybe a little lippy on, and I will be back in a few hours to show you how each side is performing. All right, so the foundation has been on for about 5 hours at this point, so let's have a look. Again, this side is Covergirl, this side is Estée Lauder. I feel like they look very much the same at this point. I'm very curious to see how the glasses did, and I feel like both performed very similarly under my glasses. Like, they both left a small red mark, but neither one got like oily or like looks cakey. It didn't make my foundation slide around, so that's great. Neither side is like more shiny than the other. Both are pretty good at oil control, just in my past experiences with each. So that doesn't really surprise me. I am starting to get like a little bit shiny on my nose, but I wouldn't say that one side is worse than the other. I think that both sides have held the blush equally. Like, I wouldn't say that there's more blush on one side versus the other. And as far as like my smile lines, they both creased a tiny, tiny bit, but I wouldn't say that one is significantly worse. Right now, I feel like the only difference between the two sides is that the Estée Lauder looks a little bit drier. I don't know if you can tell. It's like, if you can see this area right here, it just looks a little bit dry. It doesn't look bad, it just looks dry. And then if I go to this side, I find it just looks a lot smoother. And it does kind of look like the Covergirl side wore off a tiny bit along my jawline, and I'm not seeing like any wear off at all on the Estée Lauder side, but it's very minimal and both sides look really great, so I'm very happy about that. I do have a clean tissue here. I just wanted to see how these are like transfer resistant compared to each other, so I'm just going to very lightly rub my forehead on the Covergirl side. Okay, so there is a tiny bit, you might be able to see, or you may not, right in the center there, a tiny, tiny bit of foundation residue came off. Let's try the same thing on the Estée Lauder side. Very, very gently. There's a teeny tiny bit of residue on that side as well, but I would say that the Covergirl actually transferred a tiny bit more, but both are pretty good. Like, it's very, very subtle. All right, so I'll be back in a few more hours to check in again. Okay, so I've been wearing this foundation for over 8 hours and I'm gonna lose sunlight, so I figure we better check in now. I feel like everything is looking basically the same as the last time that I checked in, which is awesome. So I just want to remind you guys that neither of these are first impressions. So I knew that both of these were pretty long lasting foundations before we even started. So I'm not surprised by how well both sides held up. But what I am curious about is if the CoverGirl side is just as good as the Estee Lauder side, because there is a huge price difference. I mean, yeah, it's basically the same as when I checked in a few hours ago. So for that reason, I'm not going to just repeat myself, but just as a reminder, I do feel like the Estee Lauder side stayed on just a little bit better and also looks a little drier on my skin. CoverGirl one actually looks smoother and more hydrating than the high-end one, which is awesome. But I do feel like, I mean, this is so slight. It wore off just a teeny tiny bit more than the Estee Lauder. So do I think that the CoverGirl Ready Set Gorgeous foundation is a dupe for the Estee Lauder Double Wear Light foundation? Yes. Yes, 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 yes. At least here in Canada, this foundation is like $50. So it's great to have something that's more in like the $8 or at least under $10 range in most drugstores. The only reason that I would ever consider buying the Estee Lauder Double Wear Light again would be just because it is a little bit better of an undertone in terms of color. I like both of these foundations and I would absolutely recommend both. This one if you can afford it, this one if you're looking to save money. And I think that if you have a more normal combo skin type, I would probably even more so recommend the CoverGirl one, just because it is a little bit more hydrating and smoothing on the skin, whereas the Estee Lauder can tend to make your skin just look a tiny bit more dehydrated. All right, guys, that is the end of my review. I'm so happy that this was a successful dupe video. If you guys have any other like foundation dupes or like foundation battle videos you want me to try, leave them in the comments below. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would love to have you here. I put out new videos every single week. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.